Hear that? The soothing sounds of a crackling campfire, the gentle lapping of the lake waters on the shore, the occasional hoot of an owl. The sounds of nature. What's not to love about it, right? Just you, your tent, and a blanket of stars above. Is this paradise or what? Yeah, if that's how you feel about camping, then, well, there's something seriously wrong with you. You see, I hate camping. Just hate it. I'll explain why on the other side. Welcome back to View from the Bleachers. This week's topic, camping. What an insane way to spend a weekend, or, God forbid, an entire week. Recently, I started worrying that my wife no longer loves me. No, I didn't catch her with another man, and no, we didn't have another nasty argument about the proper way to load a dishwasher, or whose turn it was to scoop the cat litter. For the record, it's always my turn to scoop the cat litter. No, it was much more troubling. My wife actually said the three words that I have long dreaded. Let's go camping! Because, well, while this may be your idea of what camping is all about, this is what my experience for camping is like. Yeah, this is my experience. Not quite such a paradise anymore, is it? Nope. You see, now this is my way of going camping. Camped out on my lazy boy recliner, watching sports. Yeah. Okay, so this is not really my man cave. This is just a green screen image that I found. But a man can dream, can't he? Well, back to my point about camping. Why would any woman who, well, claims to love her husband, why would she force him to endure a weekend in the wilderness with no access to ESPN Sports Center? My wife thought it would be fun if the two of us had a romantic getaway. I was envisioning a cozy B&B overlooking the ocean, or maybe a posh resort/spa where we could get a couple's massage, whatever that is. But no, unbeknownst to me, my wife's concept of a romantic getaway did not include massages or cozy bedrooms with a ridiculous number of fluffy pillows. No, none of that crap. Instead, what she had in mind included physical and emotional torture. That's right, camping. When she first brought up the idea, naturally, I thought she was kidding. And when I realized she was serious, I apologized profusely for whatever I might have said or done to upset her. I even promised to do the dishes for an entire month. So she booked us a campsite for a long weekend at some godforsaken state campground deep in the wilderness beyond any cell phone range. The nearest carryout pizza was 50 miles away. I believe there's a term for being forced to sleep outdoors in the cold and the wet with no bathroom, no hot running water, and no bed to sleep on. It's called homelessness. Yes, homelessness. I can't honestly say what my favorite part of our camping trip was. Maybe it was the 3 hours it took to pack our car, or perhaps the 90 minutes it took us to set up our campsite. Then again, I might have to go with the 45 minutes it took to cook and clean up after every meal. So many highlights. When we arrived at that campground, my wife picked out a great spot. The next closest campsite was over 4 feet from our postage stamp lot. I couldn't decide which part of our temporary housing to call dibs on for my sleeping bag. The section that sloped downhill, or the section that was covered with tree roots and half-buried rocks. They both looked so appealing. Well, I guess technically I shouldn't have complained. I mean, check out these campers. Those poor saps appear to have really gotten screwed. I guess all the good spots were taken. Sucks to be them. Well, apparently my wife's idea of a cozy bungalow was a 6-foot by 6-foot tent that leaked at the slightest hint of condensation. We were assured of the pleasure of several healthy walks every day because, well, the nearest bathroom was a half a mile away. Now let me tell you, it doesn't get more fun than waking up at 2:45 in the morning in a claustrophobic tent in the pouring rain, desperately needing to go to the bathroom. What a thrill it was navigating in the darkness, in the pouring rain, bumping into trees, tripping over rocks in my bare feet, with nothing but a fading flashlight that cast a faint glimmer of light on any object that was within 16 inches of my flashlight. But the harrowing, painful journey over the rocks and twigs was worth the struggle because, well, at the end, I discovered a brightly lit lavatory, and the only thing that it lacked was toilet paper and a stall door. And any semblance of sanitation. The next morning brought yet another adventure, taking a shower. If you ask me, few things are as exhilarating as a bone-chilling shower consisting of glacier-fed ice water in a state park bathroom that appeared to have last been mopped, well, sometime during the New Deal. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they copied the floor plans for the austere restroom facility from some Confederate Civil War POW camp. Disgusting. But I have to say, despite the rough start to our camping misadventure, I was actually looking forward to seeing some of the abundant wildlife in the woods. No, I didn't actually see any hawks or deer or eagles, but I did catch an up-close glimpse of the hordes of mosquitoes that assaulted me every morning as I emerged from the safety of our tent prison cell. Now, here's a thought to ponder. Ever notice how mosquitoes are always trying to get inside your tent? That's because even insects know how horrible it is to be stuck outside in nature. And I can't talk about my love of the great outdoors without mentioning another thing that I adore about camping: the bears. As I laid my head on my pillow at night, nothing put my mind at ease like the thought that there was a 1/100th of an inch wide, thick nylon sheet protecting me from a hungry 800-pound carnivore that would consider my head to be a light snack. Now, speaking of wildlife, another high point of my camping adventure was the invasion of fire ants that apparently decided to have a convention inside our tent. Here's a fun fact that I'll bet you did not know. Guess what food bears love the taste of? If you guessed fire ants, you win. One of my wife's highlights of our weekend was watching me cook the rustic meals. Oh, sure, back home I can nuke my Stouffer spaghetti in 5 minutes, but it's much more fun to cook up that same meal on a tiny camp stove in slightly under an hour. And cleanup was a snap. I just meandered 500 yards to the one communal spigot where 9 other people were also waiting in line to fill my 1-gallon bucket with water, which procedure I then proceeded to repeat 3 more times to collect enough water for a subsistence cleanup. In about the same time that it would take to do something far more pleasant for 45 minutes, I was able to get our plates, pans, and plastic sporks somewhere in the ballpark of vaguely approaching cleanish. But then a miracle happened. Apparently one of us forgot to lock the padlock on our Coleman cooler. A bear must have broken into it overnight and consumed all our food and left behind an unopened jar of mayonnaise and a shred of plastic that bore a faint resemblance to the lid of our Coleman cooler. I just wish there was a way I could have thanked that bear personally, because with no food left but mayonnaise, our magical camping getaway had to conclude sooner than planned. Which brings me to my very favorite part of my camping trip: the drive home. Ah, now that was paradise. That's the view from the bleachers. Till next time, stay safe, stay dry, and stay indoors, my friend.